My name is Elenja and my husband is Selomja here. We've been married for 16 years. We met in school and God has been so good. We have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl.
I'm Daniel and this is my wife.
Hello, my name is Tony. Nice to meet you all.
So we've been married for 5 years and we have 2 children.
Two
you
girls.
are Dromo and you are no. God's grace and God's own.
So my name is Anthony Leddy.
We've been married for 48 years. We have 3 grown kids, adult kids, with 8 grandchildren.
I am George Nikwe, and this is my wife.
Delasinikwe.
Yeah, and we've been married for 11 months now.
I think one of the key things I learned was what I say and what I listen to. So I'm coming from a Nigerian culture, right? We are dramatic, it's natural. And I needed to learn that it's not everything that goes on. So you know this mother-daughter gist, it's not everything that goes on that I say. Because I had to blend into the culture of Ghana. If I said something to my Nigerian mother, there was a possibility of her interpreting it in the Nigerian way, and the response I would have gotten would somehow alter my own reaction. So I needed to learn from the get-go. I need to be careful of what I say or how I say it, because the response I would receive, especially because we're in 2 different geographies, can alter how I react to my marriage and in turn give me a negative feedback to my husband. So what I listen to and what I say is one key thing that I would say has kept me in check. Yeah.
So I would say one key thing that would also make a marriage work, it's first having God. And I'm saying this carefully because I know that there are a lot of marriages that may not be Christian that are still enduring the test of time. Yes, and for those ones, we actually celebrate them and we are thankful to God for that. But one thing that we need to bear in mind is that marriage is born from God. God is the author of marriage. It started out from the very, very beginning, right? And it was God's intention. God saw Adam alone and Adam had no clue that he was alone until God said it wasn't good for man to be alone. So I'll say you need God because the Bible says that everything or anything that is born from God overcomes the world. And if you realize that marriage is born from God, you would understand that there's also a lot of pressures externally or internally that will try to overcome that marriage. And you need God as a foundation to keep it running. The third thing that I'll then say is a great load of patience.
And communication.
A great load of patience. Now I'm saying patience because, well, the little time that we've been married, things that I've heard about marriage, I've realized that most of the things that affect a marriage, that doesn't make a marriage work, usually starts outside of the marriage before the couple meet. So things that are ignored when you are in that high state of, oh, I love you too, I love you too. Those things that you ignore, the red flags, whatever it is, people ignore and then they enter into the marriage and now that excitement is gone and you have to deal with the real issue. Now, when you find yourself in that particular place, it's a great load of patience because everything, there is a proper way of handling it. So if you just be patient enough, if one can be patient enough to deal with the differences in culture, differences in personality, differences in understanding, I believe a lot more marriages would survive from where I'm sitting. A lot more marriages would survive if they have a lot more patience.
If I'm adding to what he says, also the way we react, because one of the key things our Father in the Lord always tells us is watch your reactions. Because aside from being patient, I can be patient, but if I'm angry and I snap out, my reaction would trigger him. So being patient is one. Watching how you react, especially in the moment of anger or confusion or frustration, is key. Yeah.
It's the love we have for one another, the understanding, and the respect. I think these three things have formed a key role in our union working for now. And the most important, I've not added it, but it just came to mind, is Christ. We are all reading from the same manual. We all accept the same manual, and that has been our reference point, which is the Bible. So that is the key, number one key. Aside these three I've mentioned, this is the pivot. We all read from the same manual, which is the Bible, and that has been our reference point, and I think that has made it for us.
So there is this thing that I always have at the back of my mind when I'm talking to maybe younger people or maybe other married people. I say that if you don't have somebody who fears God, then there is very little you can do to change that person. So it's the God-fearing factor that is in both of us, because there are certain things, we are all prone to our natural nature to do certain things, but it is our fear of God and what He directs us to do that will keep us in check. So I think we have come this far because both of us fear God in our dealings with Him. And so whatever I am doing, I put that God-fearing thing that I can't go beyond a certain limit. Even if I'm angry or whatever it is, I can't go beyond a certain limit because the Word of God tells me that your anger shouldn't exceed this time. So I'm guided by the Word of God and the fear of God in me. And also, it is about that mutual respect. And beyond that mutual respect, also accepting the fact that He is the leader of our home. He's the leader of our marriage. And when you acknowledge that, you do not struggle with yourself to say, everything is about him, or he takes the decision and you are at the background. We all bring our ideas together, but at the end of the day, I give him that room to manage our home. And I think that has also helped us very well. So if I talk about, let me start from the last end. So we are making a decision. Okay, we want to get this piece of land around this area. Both of us are on the table. We put our ideas, why it should work, why it doesn't work. And maybe we are not really in unison. So at the end of the day, I'll say, okay, I'll leave it to you. Go ahead. If it works, all the better. If it doesn't work. And there have been instances where we haven't come to a mutual agreement. We had different opinions. And when I have said, go ahead with it, it worked perfectly. And there are other cases that he will come back and say, oh, you were right. We should have done it this way. And there are other occasions that he says it doesn't even need to be his point. What I say is the way to go, and then we go with it. And we know our strengths and weaknesses. So, for instance, when it comes to issues around budgeting and finances, it's like I'm the one keeping my eye on it. Okay, let's put some money here. Let's do that. And he has also his strength in where he comes in with. So those are the examples. When I talk about it being the God-fearing factor, is the sense that I travel, my work takes me to different places. I leave him here. There's been times that I've schooled that he has to be in the country with our kids. And he could have done anything to himself. I even went to the extent of bragging to my friends that my husband wouldn't do certain things because they were scared that once they weren't around, their husbands could be involved in certain things. And I said I could brag because I know that I'm not the one controlling his life. There is a bigger person in that union that he's afraid of, and that's why he wouldn't do certain things. And that puts us in check from both ends.
Okay, so I think that when it comes to marriage, I'm a Christian, so I believe that God created the institution of marriage. And so once he's the creator of marriage, he definitely has set down certain guidelines, like a rubric to help have a successful marriage. Like you get an assignment, you're given a rubric, and you have to do it according to the rubric. If you freestyle it, you might fail the assignment or you might not get a good grade. And so for us, what has really helped is the Word of God. I think me knowing that I have a helper or I have God on my side, and if only I surrender to what he says and the way he set out for us, then we will not fail. That's the major motivation for us, that we have God on our side. And if I surrender to God and he also surrenders to God, then God is the one who's going to, manage the whole marriage. I think doing marriage, if we weren't Christian, I think I'd be more scared to get married because I know that my husband is not, he's not bound to any sort of, he's not submitted to Christ, if I should put it that way. We kind of have a third party in our marriage. So if I don't agree on something, he doesn't agree on something, okay, fine. What does God say? If we don't know, let's open the Bible. Let's see what God says about this, or, seeking his counsel on something. So because we have Christ in our boat, we know that we can smile at the storm. It doesn't mean storms will not come. I believe that every marriage goes through its own turbulent times, but it's how you manage those processes. And so I believe that the reason why we jumped into this thing, aside from loving each other, is the fact that we have God on our side. And as long as we're committed to God, we know that we can succeed in this thing called marriage.
Yeah, and to add to that, we also had good examples, our parents. So our parents are also Christians, and they showed us how it is to love, sacrifice. My parents especially would be very open about their personal activities, like their finances, to explain why they can't afford this and I can't do this at certain times. So that just inspired me that, I want this. I also want the next generation to also have this thing that I've been blessed with. So that's another factor, aside from Christ being our boat.